Pulling out from New River State Park, this route drops you off Highway 221 and into one of the oldest river valleys on the continent, where the New River has been carving roughly the same path for millions of years. It is a strange kind of downhill, cold December air biting at your cheeks, ice still clinging to the shaded edges of the pavement, and yet a sense that you are descending into deep time rather than just losing elevation. As you leave 221 and ease onto North Fulton Reeves Road, the landscape shifts from highway corridor to working river valley. Scattered farmsteads, open bottomland, and low ridges that have framed this waterway since long before anyone paved a road here. By the late 1700s, longhunters and then settlers were following these same folds and hollows, building cabins along the creeks and river benches in a pattern that still shows in the spacing of homes, barns, and fields you see from the road. What feels like a quiet back road today is just the latest version of older wagon traces that once forded streams again and again on their way through the high country. The New River itself underpins the whole ride. Geologists routinely describe it as one of North America's oldest rivers, a north-flowing outlier that predates much of the Blue Ridge uplift and has forced the mountains to rise around it instead of the other way around. For at least 10,000 years, indigenous hunters and travelers moved along this corridor, using the river as a natural highway between what are now North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia, leaving a long, mostly archaeological record, rather than big, permanent towns in this specific upper stretch. When you roll along the banks on a winter morning, ice in the roadside ruts, sun warming the water just enough to keep it moving, you are following the edge of a route that has guided people through these hills since long before state lines existed. What gives this particular route its emotional punch, though, is how close it came to disappearing under a lake. In the 1960s and 1970s, Appalachian Power advanced the Blue Ridge Project, a two-dam hydro plan that would have turned miles of the New River Valley in Ashe and Allegheny counties into a pumped storage reservoir, swallowing farms, churches, schools, and even family cemeteries. Maps from that era show a future shoreline where today's wheels turn, replacing hayfields and bottomland pasture with coves and marinas, roads like 221, and the river parallel lanes here would have been rerouted, raised, or cut off entirely. The reason you can still ride this exact line is that local residents refuse to let that happen. Farmers, river guides, pastors, students, and county officials organized across county and state lines, building a broad movement to protect the upper New and push back against the dam licenses. Their work culminated in North Carolina designating a 26.5-mile segment as a state scenic river in 1975, and in federal wild and scenic status for the same stretch in 1976, effectively killing the dam project and locking in the river's free-flowing state. Out of that fight, New River State Park was created and later expanded, turning bits and pieces of riverbank into public access areas and campgrounds. so when tires hum along the cold pavement, past the pavement ends sign near the bridge, and then rattle across an old one-lane span into quiet bottomland. The scene is more than just good winter B-roll. It is a living cross-section of history. An ancient river still flowing north, an 18th and 19th century settlement corridor still dotted with working farms, and a 20th century conservation wind that kept this valley from being drowned under deep, still water. This road isn't just a scenic detour off 221. It is a way of tracing, at bike speed, the story of how a cold, quiet river valley became one of the most fiercely defended and carefully protected landscapes in the Blue Ridge.